That person who's always so helpful, so understanding, so impossibly nice to everyone, they're not what they appear to be. What you're witnessing isn't genuine kindness. It's a sophisticated manipulation strategy designed to extract something from you while making you feel grateful for the privilege. False kindness is the most dangerous form of manipulation because it disguises itself as virtue. While genuine kindness asks for nothing in return, false kindness is always collecting. It's always keeping score. It's always building toward a moment when the debt will be called in. You think you can tell the difference between real and fake kindness. You think your instincts would alert you to someone who's performing care instead of feeling it. You're wrong. False kindness is engineered specifically to bypass your natural defenses. The person deploying false kindness against you has studied what you need. They've observed your vulnerabilities, cataloged your insecurities, and identified exactly what kind of support would make you feel most grateful. Then they've weaponized that knowledge. Every favor they do for you is an investment. Every time they listen to your problems, they're gathering intelligence. Every moment they spend being supportive is a moment they're building leverage over you that they plan to use later. This isn't happening just in your personal relationships. False kindness operates everywhere power dynamics exist. The colleague who's always offering to help with your projects isn't being generous. They're positioning themselves to take credit for your work. The neighbor who's constantly doing small favors isn't being neighborly. They're creating a debt they expect you to repay on their terms. The family member who's always available to listen to your problems isn't being caring. They're collecting information they can use against you when it serves their interest. Here's what makes false kindness so insidious. It feels real in the moment. The person performing it has learned to mimic the external behaviors of genuine care so perfectly that even they might believe their own performance. But underneath the helpful exterior, there's always a calculation running. You're probably thinking about someone specific right now. Someone who's been unusually kind to you lately. Someone who seems almost too good to be true. Someone whose helpfulness feels slightly overwhelming. Whose attention feels slightly intense. Whose care feels slightly conditional. Trust that instinct. Your subconscious is picking up on something your conscious mind is trying to rationalize away. False kindness always has an agenda. The person offering it isn't motivated by your well-being. They're motivated by what your gratitude can do for them. They're not investing in your happiness. They're investing in your obligation. And here's the most disturbing part. They're often not even conscious of what they're doing. False kindness can become so habitual, so automatic, that the person performing it genuinely believes they're being altruistic. They've convinced themselves that their calculated generosity is spontaneous care. But your nervous system knows the difference. That's why interactions with falsely kind people leave you feeling drained instead of energized. That's why their help comes with a subtle sense of pressure. That's why their support feels more like surveillance than care. Genuine kindness creates space. False kindness creates obligation. Genuine kindness respects boundaries. False kindness systematically erodes them. Genuine kindness is offered freely. False kindness comes with invisible strings attached. The person using false kindness against you has learned that direct manipulation is too obvious. They've discovered that people resist overt control but welcome apparent care. So they've disguised their need for power as a desire to help. Every time they solve a problem for you, they're making you slightly more dependent on them. Every time they offer emotional support, they're positioning themselves as indispensable to your well-being. Every time they go out of their way to be helpful, they're creating a debt that they expect you to acknowledge. But here's what they don't want you to realize. Genuine help doesn't require gratitude. Real support doesn't demand recognition. Authentic kindness doesn't keep a ledger of what it's given and what it's owed. The moment someone's kindness comes with expectations, it stops being kindness and becomes a transaction. The moment their help requires your ongoing appreciation, it stops being help and becomes control. You've probably experienced this shift. The moment when someone's kindness suddenly felt conditional. The moment when their help came with criticism about how you weren't grateful enough. The moment when their support transformed into a weapon they could use against you. That's the moment the mask slipped. That's the moment you saw false kindness for what it really is. A long-term investment strategy designed to give someone power over your choices, your emotions, and your sense of obligation. The most dangerous part about false kindness is how it conditions you to accept less authentic relationships. When someone performs care so convincingly, you start to believe that all kindness requires payment. You start to think that genuine support always comes with strings attached. You begin to question your own instincts when something feels off about someone's helpful. You start to feel guilty for not being more grateful. You begin to believe that your discomfort with their intensity is a character flaw rather than a warning signal. False kindness doesn't just manipulate you in the moment. It rewires your expectations for how care should feel. It teaches you to accept performance instead of authenticity. It trains you to be grateful for manipulation disguised as support. And the person doing this to you knows exactly what they are accomplishing. They understand that confused gratitude is more powerful than clear resentment. They recognize that someone who feels indebted is easier to control than someone who feels free. They've learned that the best way to manipulate someone is to make them feel like they're being loved. But here's what you need to understand. Love doesn't feel like obligation. Care doesn't feel like pressure. Support doesn't feel like surveillance. If someone's kindness is making you feel trapped instead of free, that's not kindness. That's control wearing a disguise. The person who's been so helpful, so understanding, so impossibly available, they're not investing in your happiness. They're investing in your dependence. They're not building a relationship with you. They're building a system of control around you. And the most terrifying part, they're probably doing this to multiple people simultaneously. You're not their only project. You're not their only investment. You're one of several people they're systematically making dependent on their false generosity. This realization should change everything about how you interpret their behavior. Every favor they've done, every problem they've solved, every moment they've been available, all of it was strategic. All of it was calculated. All of it was designed to create the exact dynamic that exists between you now. You thought you were receiving kindness. You were actually receiving conditioning. You thought you were being cared for. You were actually being controlled. You thought you were building a relationship. You were actually being recruited into someone else's power structure. The question isn't whether you can trust their kindness. The question is whether you can trust your own instincts about what real kindness feels like. Because once you remember what authentic care actually feels like, spacious, unconditional, free of hidden agendas, you'll never mistake false kindness for the real thing again. But that recognition comes with a cost. Once you see false kindness clearly, you start seeing it everywhere. You start recognizing how many of your relationships are built on performed care rather than genuine connection. And that's when you realize the most disturbing truth of all. False kindness isn't just something that happens to you. It's something that's been normalized in almost every context where people interact. The question is, now that you know what to look for, what are you going to do about the false kindness that's already embedded in your life? And more importantly, how do you know you're not performing it yourself?